Hi, and welcome back to the show. We are here today chatting with Sheldon Wolf, president of Canada Credit Fix. He is one of Canada's forensic credit experts. Sheldon sits on the board of directors for the Credit Institute of Canada and is also an educator for the credit industry. Recently, Sheldon has been involved in the investigations of many of Canada's recent data breaches. HRSDC, Canada Pension, Ford Motors, University of Guelph, Sony, PlayStation, and many more. So welcome again to the show, Sheldon. It's always great to have you on board.
Thanks for having me.
So we're going to look at data loss and your rights. And, as one of Canada's top forensic experts, what did you determine after your preliminary investigation into the HRSDC data loss?
Well, it's quite alarming. We've had conversations with some of the people at the HRSDC. That's just to clarify who HRSDC is. They are the government, your federal government arm. These guys are involved with student loans for Canadians, and these are the investigation encompassed the loss of close to 600,000 Canadians' personal private information, including SIN numbers. So that's the scope of the investigation. What's even more alarming about it is all of it was preventable, or could have easily been preventable, and what's even more disturbing is some of the evidence that I've accumulated indicates that a lot of this information wasn't actually even lost or stolen or misplaced. A lot of this data might have actually been sold, which is frightening.
Sold? Why is this data so valuable? Who would buy this?
Consumer data is probably one of the most priceless commodities there is today. Your information, and not only for malicious purposes, not only for identity theft, but just your data, your information. If you look back to the years that this information was on their systems, this is what we call aged data, aged prime data, which means that most of these victims would now be in their mid-20s, early 30s, and they become a perfect prototype of sellable data. So who buys it? Marketing companies, companies that are in sell financial products, mortgage industry, banks. It's outright priceless. Especially you look and say, well, some of these guys must have bad credit. They didn't pay their student loans in a lot of cases. That's even more valuable, the bad data, because the bad data becomes purchased by companies who do marketing for trustees, debt settlement companies, etc., etc. So all data is priceless. Your data is priceless and worth thousands of dollars. I can't even tell you the value of this data would be close to $1 billion for 600,000 files.
So we're talking about very valuable data.
Absolutely.
What could the HRSDC have done to protect Canadians better?
They had a previous investigation, and they were given suggestions on how they could have provided better security, how they could have educated their staff better. There was a whole generated report just over the last few weeks here, and one of the things that was alarming was they did not take any of the suggestions, or I don't know if they didn't take any of them, but the important suggestions involving security and whatnot were simply ignored. Then along comes the problem of losing almost 600,000 people's private information, and it's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable that this could have been prevented with proper skills and techniques.
How do you do forensic credit auditing then?
It goes to deep, dark places. First of all, you have to ask the question you asked: who buys this? And then you have to search, and you have to find who are the victims. Well, in this case, 600,000 Canadians were the victims, and that, believe it or not, represents a portion of the Canadian population in a certain demographic. So then you have to chase the data. You have to find out everyone that may have been a consumer how it would have left, who would have purchased it. In this case, there's data scrapers that are involved. We can usually we were contacted by hundreds and hundreds of these victims of the HRSDC, and we were able to trace back certain components to the internet where it could have potentially been sold. So nonetheless, whether it's conclusive that it was sold or whether it was simply mishandled, either one of those are not acceptable. So, but it's an entire forensic process we go through, and like I said, it's pretty comprehensive.
So Sheldon, I understand that your company, Canada Credit Fix, has set up a program for all of these victims. It's also my understanding that the HRSDC and the University of Guelph have turned down your proposal to guarantee the safety of the victim's credit. Tell me more about this.
I made a proposal to prove a point that how unwilling they were to change or to protect Canadians. I offered, I believe it was, this was several months back, something as silly as $1 a year per victim that they created, and they turned it down because they want to wash their hands, as far as I'm concerned. I've had some high-level talks with people, and they're not interested. They made a mistake. From my perspective, they want to sweep it under the rug and only deal with it if it becomes a problem. So if you become a victim of identity theft, then maybe they'll talk. But until that point, they're not interested in preventing it. They're more interested in dealing with the mess as it hits the fan, so to speak. And that's the impression I got. Our fees, it costs us so little to protect Canadians, and so I set up the site identitylock.ca so the victims can join themselves in the meantime, and until the class action suit's finished, and then they can recollect their fees and whatnot from the HRSDC.
So as I understand it, the HRSDC have simply signed these victims up with free credit reports and expect that that was good enough to kind of fix their mistake?
My view is they think that if you do the minimal and let people just see their credit reports and monitor themselves, and best of luck, and if there's a problem, we'll come talk to us then. Unfortunately, they created these high-risk consumers by their negligence, and they need to protect these people. Every single one of these is high risk. Every file that was kept or handled, and I'll go a step further. Because of their system that they have set up, I'd say even people who haven't been compromised yet are still what I call high risk. If these guys are holding any consumer data on anyone, and this is an example of how they handled the data, well, everybody who gave their information to the federal government, the HRSDC, there is high risk.
What is the difference between the credit monitoring service that Equifax or TransUnion offers and what it is that you do?
They essentially have a credit monitoring program, which we think is essential. In no way do I think it's not an important program. People should be diligent with their credit. But credit monitoring, where you're looking at your own report, determining what's changed or what hasn't, and versus live monitoring, where we take the same credit report and have our forensic experts review it, check logarithms, check synchronization, check the internet for data leakage, and use our data scanners and grabbers and all that other forensic stuff that we do, takes it to a whole different level, because you can look at your credit report, and most Canadians will agree that they'll look at the credit report and look at it and say, hey, I'm looking at a credit report. When I look at your credit report, I'm looking at code. I'm looking at things like that and variables. And then when I search things and run it through our programs, I can see things that may not be on your credit report that are definitely floating around the web, and all these other fun things that say to me, Sheldon, this guy should be on high alert. Something needs to stop this before it becomes a major problem, not after. I mean, prevention is the best cure, is what they say, right?
Well, and it is quite scary. So what's the best way to protect yourself?
Be diligent. Our company is set up to be low cost. It's people spend more money putting virus protectors on their computer, which protect their information on their computer and protect the safety of their computer, but they'll spend virtually nothing protecting themselves when it comes to their credit, which to me is the most important aspect of your life. Because, I mean, let's face it, nowadays you need credit for almost anything. And And here's the most important thing I have to say. When it comes to credit, when it comes to identity theft, it's not like it was 10 years ago. Today, it's not a matter of will you become a victim. Today, it's when will you become a victim.
So why is it important to have live monitoring and a credit expert on the watch?
Real people can spot things. I will tell you that probably 9 out of 10 of our clients that are currently in for credit restoration had no idea that they had been a victim of identity theft until I pointed it out. Their original phone call to me was because something was on their credit what wasn't theirs, and they thought it was just a mix-up that Equifax made. And the conversation always starts out that way. Equifax screwed up. You've heard me say that before. TransUnion screwed up. It's not them screwing up. They don't know who you are. They just get data from data furnishers. So if Royal Bank, for example, reports a loan on your credit and it's not yours, well, Equifax didn't put that on there. This is information being fed in through data furnishers. Somebody applied for a loan and it's now on your credit. It may be yours. It may not be. It may be identity theft. It may just be a mismatch. But either which way, it needs to be dealt with because it's a serious problem and there could be serious consequences if this loan goes into default, which usually happens in identity theft. So,
got it. So I've heard about you talk about high risk. What does high risk mean to these students and victims of data loss?
High risk means that your information is out of someone's control. It's somewhere. Where you can control it is fine. It's when you can't control your own data. So anything involving your credit information, your banking information, your personal information, your SIN number, anything that you've left in your employer's control, anything you've left in the bank's control, in the government's control, if they're not handling protecting of your data properly and the information that you've provided them, you're high risk. End of story. Anytime you do online purchases, anytime you play on Facebook, your information is getting put in, and a lot of times it's your own fault. But it needs to be protected, and if you're not protecting it, you need a company like ours that will.
So what would you recommend to all the students and victims of the HRSDC and University of Guelph database breaches? Should all of these people join into these class action lawsuits?
Absolutely. There's some very, very diligent lawyers. I've spoken with a lot of them. Bob Buckingham is one of them. Branch McMasters is another. There's several others that are representing clients from coast to coast. And very, very, very important that if you are a victim, you need to join here. People need to stick together. This is not something that will just vanish from the headlines, and unfortunately that's what often happens, is it disappears from the media and people forget. You need to know that you are high risk. Your credit being out there, wherever it may be, whether it was sold, whether it's lost, stolen, regardless of whether it was with Ford Motors, HRSDC, whether you're a senior and it was the old age pension information lost. You know what? You have to protect yourself, and you need the compensation, because these the whole goal of these class action suits are to get you the compensation that you need and that you're deserving, and you should go protected. You should have a live monitoring service like ours. And one last plug in here, make sure you're dealing with a Canadian company like ours. A lot of American companies offer credit protection, but you need a company here who understands Canadian credit. It's not all the same, and you need someone who understands exactly what your situation is and what your risk levels are.
So essentially, identitylock.ca was set up as a portal for you to communicate best with Canadian consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll help you set up and become part of the class action suits. At the same time, we'll scan your credit, make sure that everything is secure, and if it's not, we'll be able to help with the credit restoration. Even if it looks nice and secure now, that doesn't mean in 6 months from now the data won't surface. And like I said, to me, it's not a matter of if you'll become a victim. It's a matter of when. It's inevitable. The way technology is going, the way data is going, and the way cybercrime is going, it's just simply a matter of when. And you better be prepared, and you better have somebody in your court who can fix this and clean this up and get you restored and back to normal. So that's what we're here for.
Wow. Well, we certainly learn something new each time you step into the show. Thanks for coming out and do keep us informed on the HRSDC hearings and your proposal.
Absolutely.
Well, for more information on Sheldon's identity theft and credit monitoring programs, please visit identitylock.ca, or you can also get the information at www.canadacreditfix.com or by calling Sheldon at 1-866-530-3646. Thank you, everyone, for watching. See you again real soon.